Good afternoon, everybody. It is Thursday, the 16th. This is Paul, your property manager. As promised, I am doing a short video so that we can all understand what the changes to the Master Association budget are for 2022. The mailing went out on December 9th, but a lot of people said they haven't received it yet. And since there are so many changes to the budget this year between the new Clubhouse, Blue Stream, and a few other things, I figured I would go through the mail out with everybody so you can go through this leisure and even play it again numerous times to get comfortable with all the information. So I'm going to start by reading the letter that's coming from the Board of Directors. That's the first page. Venetian Isles homeowners. This has been a challenging year. We've been trapped in our homes due to the pandemic and lost some of our friends. Outside of these walls of the community, prices have gone crazy on everything from toilet paper to gasoline for our cars. The walls of our community protect us from a lot, but we're not immune to what's going on all around us. The question on everyone's mind is, how much are the association dues going to increase for 2022? The answer is $44 a month. Below are the three contributing factors to that increase. The first one, which many people are aware of, is there's a $15 increase due to the addition of internet services. Previously, you did not have internet services to your homes. You had to pay for that service separately through Comcast. The second $14.50 a month per home of the increase is due to true increases in operating costs. We'll go through in detail what those costs are. Another $14.50 of the increase is because last year, the association budget was subsidized out of prior year's surplus. The association no longer has a surplus to subsidize the budget. We will go through that in detail as well, if that doesn't sound clear just the way I said it this moment. Please keep in mind that over the past 3 years, the Master Association fees have increased a total of only $5. As board members, we're also subject to the increase and did not take this increase lightly. There is some good news, however. For residents that subscribe to internet services, you will see a significant savings in the cost over your current provider. For example, AT&T or Comcast. The cost to rent a modem will be completely eliminated from your service provider bill because that is being provided now as part of the service from Blue Stream. For residents that do not subscribe to an internet service provider, you will now have internet service to your home at no additional cost. You won't need a service provider. The association is providing it through our contract with Blue Stream. Another question that many people have asked is what happens to the $424,000 rebate / incentive that the association is receiving from Blue Stream. A portion of this amount, $53,000 specifically, is being used to subsidize the monthly HOA dues for this year. And then it says, please see the enclosed schedule. On this video, I will go through the schedule for the methodology and the rationale for why it's $53,000 this year and not $424,000. The next important factor to consider are contract costs. The cost of insurance has increased significantly. There's a schedule that shows that. For our other contract services that the association has, we are lucky in that most are locked into multi-year terms. Those contracts that are in the multi-year terms did not increase substantially this year. That's just from the luck of the draw. However, the service contracts that were up for renewal experienced significant increases. For example, hurricane pruning, mulching, those contracts saw increases of 15%, whereas contract services with Castle or with Palm Beach Broward, they experienced 2 to 3% increases because they were multi-year agreements that are not up for renegotiation this year. So there's the good news. The new food and beverage amenity is something else we'll talk about in this broadcast because the 22 budget needs to cover the overhead and operating costs of the new snack bar, restaurant, food service. We're just calling it a food and beverage amenity because it covers myriad types of food and beverages throughout the property. The upshot for the operating budget is that there is no requirement for residents to use this amenity. You don't have a card where you have to spend money and use it or lose it. If you never want to buy a Coca-Cola or a coffee or do anything, it's not costing you a dime. The operation, however, does need community participation, which I've talked about before, in order for it to be successful. To get the best of the best, obviously, we need people to come and support it. Naturally, it goes without saying, the only way the community is going to support it is if it's moderately priced with good quality food and good service. That is the objective. And to achieve that objective, we are basically going to run it in-house so that we are not leaving it to the whims of a catering company whose motivation is obviously profit motivated. The food service amenity is budgeted at a break-even point. There are no additional costs to be included in the monthly HOA fees for this amenity. So I don't want people to think after this video or after reading all this that, oh, the maintenance is going up because we now have a restaurant. Your maintenance is not going up a penny due to the food service addition. The food service at this point will probably start when the building opens sometime in June. So all the numbers that we are using for budget purposes are 6 months, 1/2 of a year in 2023. They will increase because that'll be 12 months of operations. Understanding, of course, that you're now going to have a revenue stream. Every dollar that goes in the cash register goes to offset those expenses. It does not go to Castle. It does not go to a caterer. It goes to Venetian Isles Community Association, which is all of you. Okay, under the Florida statutes, the association is only required to send out a copy of the proposed budget. We acknowledge that it's difficult to answer everyone's questions in a Zoom meeting, so we've included a few supporting schedules within this mailout in order to answer some of the questions you may have. Again, when you get the mailout, if you have not received it yet, and some of you have because you called with questions, there are 9 pages to this year. That's very unusual, but we're doing that because since we can't get together in a big room and get your questions answered, and we're only going to be doing this by Zoom, we want to make sure you have all the information for whatever question you could possibly have. And the next sentence tells you, if you have any questions related to the budget, please feel free to contact us at www.myvenetianisles.com, and we'll try to get those questions answered via email. And of course, if you don't get them answered through email, please join us for the budget meeting and ask them then. It is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Thursday, December 23rd, 2021 via Zoom. We will send out the usual links and everything else for you to participate. Again, we understand it's holiday time for everybody. You have children and grandchildren visiting, you want to go on vacations. Between Zoom and this video broadcast, you should be able to get all the information to make you comfortable about the budget for 2022, even though you're doing all those other activities. We look forward to a happy and healthy new year. All the best, your Venetian Isles Board of Directors. And of course, they all signed the letter. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything. I'm going to scroll quickly. You can see the budget is 2 legal size pages long. And it shows at the end of the day, your monthly payment last year, this year, 2021, was $295 per home for the Master Association. And it's going up to $339 per home. That is an increase of $44 per home for the master portion of your budget. Everybody knows that if you live in Corsica, you have to add your Corsica payment. If you live in Terra Nova, you have to add Terra Nova. So you're going to add this number to whatever budget you have that was passed for your individual association. If you are unclear of that amount, Maybe you were traveling, you weren't at a budget meeting, something like that. Feel free to contact the office. We'll be happy to tell you what your actual payment is. So starting with the top of the budget here, the way the columns work is the first column is the approved budget with full reserves that was passed for 2021. So this very first column is what your current budget is for the line item. The next column is the actual amount we've spent year to date through Halloween. So the first 10 months of the year. The next one is a mathematical equation that basically says if we've spent this much in 10 months, here's what we project to have spent by December 31st of 2021. And then based on this information, we go ahead and say, here's where we think we'll be for 2022. That all seems very easy at face value. However, there are a number of expenses that we do not pay for ratably over the year. For example, the hurricane pruning of the trees, that takes place once a year. So even though my actual numbers here are only for 10 months, they would include for that particular line item the entire year's amount of money we're going to spend. So there will be deviations in this column for the projections because we know some things don't make sense to just divide by 10, multiply by 12. So these are just projections, but they are important because it gives us an idea of where we're going to be. The first line here of the revenue side, and this little square here deals with all of your revenue with the exception of the food and beverage operation. So this is where we get all the money, and all the other pages are a breakdown of the expenses. The first line is your maintenance fee, but that is not the entire amount that you pay in the coupon. If you were to divide this number by 1,060, you would see it doesn't come out to $339. That's because under the statute, we are required every year for you to approve or disapprove funding the reserves. Historically, Venetian Isles always funds their reserves. So this 250 is the reserve contribution that's anticipated for this year. If you add these two numbers together and divide them by 1,060, you will get the $339 per home per month. Per month. These other items are additional income that comes into the association that may or may not happen. They are literally estimates. So the first one is decals, barcodes for vehicles. So the sale of the barcodes and decals for your vehicles is estimated to be about $3,300 a year. We do have a schedule to break that out. It's really not a significant amount of money. It is not a profit center because if you look further down here, for example, we have a cost associated with that. This is for the access cards of $9,000. So we're paying an expense of $9,000 here. We're going to have $9,000 income here. It's really a break-even proposition. We're just asking homeowners to pay for the cards in addition to the ones that we give you for free and the decals for your cards so that it's a break-even proposition. You notice last year, as we get further down, there was a prior year surplus. It was $183,795 that was brought in as income last year. It wasn't really income, it was accumulated savings from running under budget in prior years that we accumulated in anticipation that we would need the money in the future to do things like the clubhouse and whatever else we needed to do. So last year in your budget, there was $183,795. If you divide that by 1,060 homes, that's $14.50 a month that you weren't getting charged up here because it was being picked up out of what you had already paid in previous years. I think we all understand that if we're in the middle right now of doing this project and we're borrowing money from the bank, there is no more accumulated retained earnings or surplus to use as a cushion to soften the blow of your increases. So the reality is last year's budget, if we didn't have a surplus, and many places do not have a surplus, would have been $14.50 higher per month already than what you were paying. There's no well for me to draw from anymore. So the first $14.50 of this $44 increase is because there are no more accumulated retained earnings. The next line, 53,000, which says not applicable in previous years, is from the Blue Stream rebate. So let's jump down to that, since that's the last income item, and go to the schedule to show you why the board decided that that's the amount to use this year. Okay, this is the schedule about your Blue Stream rebate. Where is the money going? Well, in case you don't know, Blue Stream has an incentive to get Venetian Isles to enter into a contract with them for a number of years, gave us a check for $424,000. I don't believe we have all of it yet. We're getting it in pieces, but we're getting 424. As an aside, Comcast was only willing to give us 100,000 for 10 years. So 424,000 we got. Now, a lot of residents might say to themselves, well, wait a minute, divide that by 1,060 and send me a check. Doesn't make a lot of sense when this rebate is really for a contract for services that are over the next 8 years. As some of you that were on last night's annual meeting realized, if we were to stop using Blue Stream, we'd have to give them a portion of that money back. If we canceled them in year one, we're going to have to give them back 7/8 of that money. So if I give you all that money back right now, or the community does, it's not my money to give, then we'd literally have to come to you for a special assessment to get the money back. Doesn't make any sense. Also doesn't make any sense to write you a check when in your other pocket, you're going to the bank to borrow money to finish this project. So in order to match up the real value of this $424,000 with the service that you're getting, which is what the rebate's for, we took the contract term of 8 years, we divided the 424 by 8 years, and it means $53,000 a year of the contract rebate is going to be given back to each homeowner. It's being given back to you, not in a check, because that would involve getting you a check, getting them to clear the bank, having stale checks that sit out there for years. It's just not necessary when you're paying us every month. So what we're doing is we're putting the $53,000 towards your budget. It comes out to $50 per home per year, or $4 a month. So if we did not have this rebate from them, your maintenance would not go up $44, it would go up $48. So $53,000 is the amount that'll go to reducing your budget. While we're on this page, I think most of you were on the meeting last night, so this is redundant information for you. But we wanted to share, in the event that the community decides to hold a vote to cancel the Blue Stream contract, this is how the charges that will be incurred by the association are calculated. I'm not going to beat a dead horse over this. You're all able to read it when it comes. This is not going to happen. The vote was brought up last night, but everybody quickly understood the financial ramifications would be devastating to the association to go down this path. So if something were to happen now or in the future, the assessment to each home would be $3,230, and your maintenance in your budget, if we had to go back to Comcast for the same services that we're getting from Blue Stream, would go up an additional $33.15 a month. So the good news of all of this is none of this part is happening. There is no assessment. There is no additional increase. And in fact, you are going to get all of the things that we said you're going to get with Blue Stream at no additional cost to each homeowner. I would like to point out, and I'm assuming this is self-evident, but maybe it's not. Yes, your dues are going up $44 a month, but according to the information that we got from Comcast as to what everybody was spending for ancillary services, meaning your internet and extra cable boxes and modem rental, They said most people are going to save a minimum of $50 a month. Most of you are going to save $79 a month, and some are going to save even more than that. All of this depends on your individual situation. So these are very broad stroke numbers I'm giving you. But really what's happening is you're giving the association $44, but your bill to Comcast is going down more than $44 for everybody, which really does mean you're putting the money from your right pocket into your left. It is a big number. I understand traditionally you've not had that, but we all also know that there are true increases going on in the environment around us because of inflation. One other thing that I want to point out is that these increases really have nothing to do with the choice to rebuild the clubhouse, because the clubhouse, yes, there's a portion of it in this budget. That portion right down here, clubhouse renovation expense and the interest on the loan, is the exact same number that it has been running for years. All of that is in your operating. The only thing that's in your operating expenses right now is interest on the loan and a clubhouse restoration expense until we finish the clubhouse restoration. Next year, 2023, when this project is over, these two numbers will change to a loan payment for debt service. And that's when you will change from the titles of these two to the old number that we used to have on our budget for a loan payment. It is yet to be determined, and we do have a schedule in here that shows you how that works, what the loan payment will be when the loan starts self-amortizing it down the road. But for 2022, we have managed to keep this number constant, even though the board only promised that we were going to do it for 2020 and 2021. The board felt very strongly that since everything else is going up, we want to keep this as manageable as possible for all the homeowners. All right, administrative expenses here. If we look at them instead of going through every line item, we were at 626,100 last year. We're going up to 643,871. That's not a significant amount. I mean, 20,000 out of 620,000 is not a lot. Most of these things have stayed the same. Your office supplies have gone up a little bit. We spent 11,700 this year. We think that number may come in a little bit less because we've had to spend to replace a couple of things that shouldn't be replaced next year. Your gate and barcode decals, again, they are now coming in against the charge for those decals. Access cards were not on here. We purchased $14,729 worth of supplies. Next year, we should only have to purchase $9,000. There are schedules to support all of that. Office equipment, we anticipate that number is going to go down, not up. Everything else is pretty much the same. Legal fees, again, we think those are going to go down a little because obviously we've had a lot of legal bills with reviewing contracts and things like that this year that we may not have as much once the project's done. Let's move on to insurance. Insurance goes from 122,938 to 201,707. I'm going to show you a schedule of how this happens by policy. I don't think this is a surprise to a lot of people, even though it's a large increase, because I know for a fact, even for myself and everyone else, our homeowners insurance has gone through the roof because that's just the nature of insurance in Florida right now. Between all the natural disasters that are happening and everything in the world, insurance is just going up. So let me shoot to that schedule to tie out the number for you. Okay. Let me change the view. Probably should have gone counterclockwise, but we'll keep going until we get it correct. One more time. There you go. All right, so the way this spreadsheet works is just like if you were figuring out bills at home. You accumulate all the people you pay insurance to. These are all the different insurance carriers that we have to the left. Currently, they're all through Park and Associates. This is the type of insurance. So you have a crime policy, directors and officers, your umbrella policy, environmental impairment, general liability, workers' comp, blah, blah, blah. Here are the expiration dates. The reason this is important is because some insurance, most of our insurance renews on July 1st. That means half of the premium is attributable to 1 year, half is attributable to the next year. So you see the way that carries across. We're told by our agents to expect, and in the industry, we've been told to expect across the properties that Castle manages, an increase of 15%. If we get lucky, it'll be less. Some people have been more, especially the waterfront properties that we manage has gone up way higher than this because of obviously what happened in Surfside. So right now for 2021-22, we've already paid in July the premium for the first 6 months of 2022. So this number is not going to change. We know what that number is. It's already been paid. A total of $155,433. So as you can see, we're already used up almost the whole budget for last year, and we're not through the year. This premium that we paid, you divide it in half, which gives you A. That's the amount for the first half of 2022, which is fixed and determined because we've already paid it. We then take the amount and we multiply it by the 15% to tell us what the premium for the second half of this year should be. So again, very simple math. 15% increase brings you to these numbers. You add A and B together down here, gives you $201,707.36. That all goes back to page 1 of the budget. Not much else going on with that. Let's go back to the budget. Okay, so we finished off insurance. Now let's go on to contract services, which is where I said the bulk of the increases are. A lot of these numbers are the same. Like you can see, Castle's contract for management went up very little. Rather than doing that on here, I'm going to go to a separate schedule that was mailed to you as well, which we've never done before. But it goes down and tells you about all these contractual increases that happened for the year. Here we go. Rotate again. Stay counterclockwise, and we get there much faster. So these are all the different service providers that tie to your budget. They go line by line. So personnel, both of these top lines are Castle numbers. One is the management fee for Castle's management, and the other one is the actual paychecks and benefits that go to the personnel, the payroll taxes, things like that. So the first line is the burden for the physical bodies. The second one is basically for producing your financial statements and using the service line. This line here has a 3% increase. So Castle is basically getting paid $58,000 for all their services. That's part of a multi-year agreement. The personnel are going up 20%. You'd say, wow, that's a lot of raises. That's really not a lot of raises. What it is we're adding the staff to reopen the clubhouse for the second 6 months of the year. So currently last year's budget did not have in, for example, for Dean's old position on Saturday and Sunday because we're not open. So I had to add a full-time position for Saturday day, Saturday night, Sunday day, Sunday night for the front desk. And then obviously we also had to add for Common's position. Common still works for us, but Common is not the body I'm talking about. From 3 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night, you're going to need a front desk person again. So between those two personnel additions, that's 4,180 hours a year. Most of that is the increase, because we're going to be open again. You're going back to the old numbers you used to have in terms of payroll. We had reduced payroll while we were doing construction. And of course, there are some moderate increases for the personnel that are working here included in that. So that's how we get to that number. If we go to lawn maintenance from Palm Beach Broward, again, multi-year contract only goes up 2%. When you go down to A&W mulch, all of the mulch providers that we went to have a large increase. That's due to supply and due to increased labor costs. So our new mulch contract calls for $31,148. It's a 14.5% increase. It is what it is. Didn't really matter who we bought it from. That was what we were going to see. We had an increase also with Duffy's tree service. Again, did not seem to matter whether we went to Duffy's or Zimmerman's or someone else. We were seeing a 15% increase. That brings it to $75,000. We were lucky that it was not increased the year before because it was still part of a multi-year agreement. We do try to do multi-year agreements where we can for just this reason. It's easier for you to budget and take advantage of better pricing. The next one's lakes and wetland management, pressure cleaning, pest control. They're all multi-year agreements. The excuse me, the pest control did go up, even though it was a multi-year agreement, but it's a nominal amount. It's $600. So percentage-wise, it looks big, but it's really only $600. Allied Universal, our security service that takes care of and mans the front gate 24 hours a day, their contract has been up for renewal for a while. We have not renewed with them because we're not particularly thrilled with the service that we're getting from them. We are actively working through that with them. We know there are issues with the nighttime guards. Consistency has been an issue. You may have noticed that Chris is back. We managed to hire him back to Allied Universal during the day, so at least we have some consistency during the day. So the $195,000 is not outrageous. We are, however, have not entered into an agreement because we are looking for alternatives to mitigate the higher cost and the lack of quality. The only way for me to get better quality is to pay more money, or for us to automate the system, or some combination of both of those. We will save that for another Zoom meeting to discuss the pros and cons of all of that. But for budget purposes, we've put $195,000 in, regardless of whether it gets paid to Allied Universal or someone else. The cable TV, basically, you all know at this point, we cancel with Comcast. Comcast renewal terms were financially unfavorable. Their renewal was $1,282,000. We got it from Blue Stream for $914,000. You know what choice we made. The next three are multi-year agreements, very limited in terms of increases. The next ones we don't have a current vendor for. We are holding a place for them because once the place opens, we will need an audiovisual equipment maintenance agreement. Mood Media, we do have an agreement for them now. It's going to go up when we start playing the background music and stuff in the clubhouse. Again, insignificant numbers in the scheme of the entire environment. Mood Media, for example, went up $1,000, 59%. It's still $1,000. It's $1 a home a year. It's not worth spending a lot of time on. We go down to the pool service. Currently, we had Dave Land's Pools. The company was sold. We have a new service provider. He's holding the price flat for us. This $24,325 is what we are currently paying them to monitor the pools, chlorinate the pools, and everything else. I am fully aware that this number is going to increase once we open the whole place back up again, but it will only be for 6 months, and we will deal with that increase in 2023. Tennis courts and our Tennis Pro multi-year agreement, no increase there. The Lakes and Wetlands Mitigation Service, there's 3 different pieces to lakes and wetlands, and without belaboring the point, it didn't go up any money, so it's staying the same for that particular part of the service. All right, now the next change, fitness equipment lease is with a company called Navitas. We did not have it in previous years. It's $20,262 a year. And basically the reason this was done is that when the analysis was presented of a capital lease versus an outright purchase, the cost benefit was clear that a capital lease was the way to go. So that's why we're doing it that way. It's $20,262. We have a new fitness equipment maintenance agreement through Fitness Smith. Our old agreement was for $2,400. Again, by going with the capital lease and doing it all through Fitness Smith, it went down 58% to $1,000 a year. At the end of the lease, so everybody understands how this works, it's a lease over a period of time, and then the equipment is ours for $1, kind of the way you lease a car nowadays. And so what will happen is when the lease is up, if the board at the time decides, or the fitness committee decides that we want to go ahead and switch out equipment, it's going to be much easier to do that and enter into a new lease to change out equipment, but that's for another day. What's the next increase here? Okay, the holiday lighting decorations, they went down to 18.6 because obviously we're not doing the roundabout in the clubhouse. We anticipate them to go back to the old number, which was 23.5, because there's a larger scope. You're going to put up the Christmas tree again, put up the big menorah, decorate inside the clubhouse, etc., etc. No brainer there. Gate maintenance. There is a company that was here for many years called Royce that takes care of those wrought iron gates and the arms up at the gatehouse. They were charging us $4,200, not a lot of money, but we were able to change providers. We switched to a company called Minor that Castle uses at many other properties, and it went down to $1,688 a year, saving 60%. ABDI, that's the company that maintains the database for gate access. Don't have much of a choice with them right now because they are the only ball game in town. Fortunately, their costs have remained flat for now. We are looking into alternatives with our new ID card provider to maybe eliminate that service altogether. We have a Clubhouse business data package through Comcast because that was the only way to get television and internet to the fitness center when we wanted to open it. That's a 2-year agreement. They're charging us $6,690 a year. We didn't have a choice. Once that is over, it'll all come to us from Bluestream and that number will come down. Food service equipment lease, there is a nominal amount in here of $3,600 a year because we know that certain pieces of equipment, for example, the ice makers, it is more effective for us to lease because they will come with an included service call in there. So for example, if the ice machine breaks, we're not going to have a million service calls. It's included in the lease for servicing that equipment. So it's $3,600 is the estimate that we currently have from Cheney Brothers for the items that need to be leased, specifically the ice making equipment. And I believe some of the dishwashing equipment is in there as well. SAS agreement for access software. This is a new cost we didn't have in the past. This is to maintain all those ID cards and everything. The software is $26,972 a year. That covers the database and the maintenance of all of those cards, but it also covers, when the time comes, all the other databases that will need to be maintained so that you will be able to order food, charge it to your house accounts, all those other things. So $26,900 may sound like a lot, but it's not a lot for the myriad things that they are running behind the scenes to make our new clubhouse run. And the Lakes Floridone herbicide application, this is another part of the lakes and wetlands, really hasn't gone up. The only thing that's good about this is we basically purchase X amount of chemicals from them. They only use what's needed. So we will either use a portion of this 23.6, we'll use none of it. If we don't use any of it, there'll be savings to next year's budget. That pretty much beats to death all the contracts. That's more than anybody ever wanted to know about the contracts for Venetian Isles. I'm going to go back up, change the view so you can see it again. All right, so now we've gone through contract services. You can see it went from $1,005,300 to $1,007,700. That's the bulk of your increase for the year. It's $245,000 increase, $240,000 increase. So that's quite a bit per home. Repairs and maintenance are other things that we pay for that are not limited by contract. Landscape projects, historically, we always have $125,000 in there for things that need to be done. This is basically the dumping ground for the things that come up that need to be taken care of outside of the clubhouse that we don't necessarily know about, like repairing the perimeter walls, fixing the structure to fountains, replacing big sections of fences, things like that. As you can see, this year we're at $112,000 right now. I am fairly certain we'll go to that 125. So there's 125 for next year. Irrigation repairs, they've gone up slightly because you see these numbers have gone up. We had a budget of 10,000. If you live in Corsica and some of the other places, you know the 20-year-old system is failing. We hope most of that's behind us. As you can see, we've spent 15,000 in excess of our budget for this year. So we're putting in 15,000 for next year. Hopefully we won't spend more than that. Preserve maintenance is budgeted at 15,000. Again, we spent a considerable amount over budget this last year because it had not been done in quite a few years. Lake repairs and maintenance, we have been able, through our contracts, to get almost everything taken care of. So we're dropping that $10,000. The extras for the lakes are staying flat because that's when they come in with the sea-doo machine and have to cut down the littorals, things like that. Maintenance supplies, this is basically if George needs tools, light bulbs, things for the clubhouse, paint and things like that. Again, relatively flat. Office repairs, same thing. We don't really break out the difference. Janitorial supplies, we are assuming that they're going to go up because there's cost increases to everything. So we put a slight increase in there. That's your toilet paper, paper towels, Windex, things like that. Roof repairs, we're removing from the budget because the theory is, I just bought a brand new roof, it better not leak. Concrete repairs, we had 5,000. We're reducing that a little. Gutter cleanings, the same. Home alarm electronics. This is for when there are service calls related to the original equipment that was installed in your homes. The agreement the association has with everyone is that if there is a problem with original equipment, the association picks up the tab. If you need to have something that you added, like a room sensor repaired, that is borne by you solely. So all this covers is the original equipment. We have in here 12,000 a year. So far this year, we've spent $5,910. So we're reducing that to 6,000 for next year. Because what happened this year is pretty consistent with what should happen on an annual basis. Air conditioning, again, we're going to have new machinery and everything. The only thing that could give us a problem might be one or two of the older units that we've decided to keep, or the air conditioning at the gatehouse, which clearly was not replaced when we updated the main building. So we left $2,500 for that. Lighting, we left $2,500 for that because we did not do anything with a lot of the exterior lighting on the property. So we felt we still needed to have some money there, even though it was only a quarter of what was previously there. Hurricane preparation, we left flat. Additions and improvements went up slightly. The reason for that is there are still hardware components to the access control system that have to be paid for in the main clubhouse when it comes online, at the gatehouse, things like that. We are going to switch from a decal system to RFID system like they use for SunPass. So you'll be able to get those decals off your car, and it'll be a nondescript decal that goes on your windshield sometime during 2022. It's not right away. It is going to happen. It's just not right now because we have too much else to do. But that's what this additions and improvements is. Pool spa and fountain repairs. Again, the fountains haven't been redone. We're going to spend that money for sure. General repairs and maintenance is a small number of 3,000 put in there because there are many things that we have not individually identified, and it's a small amount. So if you look here, you were at 366, you're going to 382. It's about $16,000 increase overall, nothing to write home about. Clubhouse, actually these numbers have gone from 90,000 down to 66.8. Again, trying to have some cost savings on things with the building because it is going to be a new building, but we have increased the association sponsors of events by $10,000 because prices have increased on everything. We know that's going to cost us more money. The newsletter expense, for those of you that have moved into the community and have not seen it, we have a wonderful publication called My Venetian Isles Times that is basically a magazine that is made, not a photocopied newsletter like other communities. That is basically subsidized by the advertisers. So we still have that when it starts up again in a break-even situation because the advertisers usually wind up footing the bill for the printing and production of that magazine. Let's hope that continues once we get our clubhouse open and activities start happening again. Utilities, excuse me, with the exception of the pool heaters, we saved a lot on gas this year because the pool heaters are the only thing that's gas and the pools haven't been open. So we anticipate it's going to go back up to $40,000. Everything else is just the estimate of what utilities are going to be increasing. And you can see that there is an increase here overall because you have bulk internet and cable TV. So it is not that we're paying less than we used to pay. We were paying $786. Now we're paying $900,000, but we're also getting an internet service line that we didn't have before. Hope I explained that. I think you all get it because we beat that topic to death. But that's what the increase in this service line is. Okay, food and beverage. This is pretty much an estimate of the income that should come in through the cash register, either from food sales, gratuities that people are leaving on their credit cards if they want to tip the servers, income from the cocktail lounge, bar, whatever you want to call it, and the sales tax. Against those revenues, you're going to have the cost of the food, the cost of the sales for beverages, the cost of the personnel, the gratuities, which you see, it comes in, it goes out. Same with sales tax. We're merely collecting it for the state of Florida. It goes in and out. So for 6 months, we are anticipating 402,000 in, 402,000 out for a net of nothing. This number should always stay at a break even for the HOA operations. If we're doing really, really well, the income will be higher and then there will be money left over. That's in an ideal world. We'll see how that goes. We're being conservative right now to keep the budget flat. And it does seem reasonable based on the head counts and everything. Let me take a look at the schedule to show you how those numbers were arrived. I know a lot of this is way more information than you're interested in, but for those that are, let's go through it. When we came up with the numbers, we did this based on what we thought the minimum is that could happen based on the other communities that we manage and their operations. Some of them only have snack bars, some of them have full-blown restaurants, some of them have bars. So we made assumptions based on revenues to the left and costs to the right. The revenues, we said 26 weeks we're going to be open, 7 days a week. We figured $1,000 a day based on the volume that should happen, which will give us 182,000 in the cash register for food. We also put in 13 weeks of events because you have card parties. There are many things that go on. That money used to go to caterers. That money was put in conservatively because we realize, we're not making a country club here. We're merely just trying to get you the services that you had on a consistent basis at a reasonable price. So from the events, this should come in, which gives us our sales. Instead of going down here to the bar, let's stick up here for a moment. We estimated food costs at 30%. So 30% of this number gives us this number. We estimated the staff at 50%. That's a very high number. It is highly unlikely that we will pay that for staff. It is a function of what comes in the cash register though. So if you use more of this, this percentage goes down and we wind up with a profit. We put supplies in at 20%. So combined between food and beverage costs, food and supply costs, you're at 50% and the other half is staff. Again, this should allow us to keep the prices relatively low, moderate prices, not like a country club, and allow us to turn a profit in the event that everybody actually uses it. When we go down to the liquor part, we're assuming only $100 a day. That is next to nothing, folks. But we're doing that because I can't make you come. No one's forcing you to do anything. We're assuming that you're going to want to come and use this beautiful facility, especially if we have events and things going on. So I think it's going to be pretty easy for us to average $100 a day. If we do $700 on a Saturday, that's going to take care of the whole week. We did this for budget purposes, and $1,000 an event. That may sound like a lot of money, but even if it's only $5 a drink, that's 200 drinks at a party for 400 people. That's really conservative. Again, we use very conservative numbers on our costs. Liquor at 30% is a really good number. Staff at 50% is a very high number. It doesn't mean these numbers are actually going to get paid. We showed you this to show you the minimums that have to come in to make this thing break even. So this is all very good news. It does not take a ton of participation, but remember, the more you participate, we're not forcing you to do it by making you purchase a card or anything, but the more that you use it, the more income that comes into the association. And if you take that a step further, guess what that does? It pays off the loan for the clubhouse faster, which means your budget gets better and better. Not to mention, you get to show off your new clubhouse. You get to invite your friends to have a cocktail, to have dinner, participate in things. We're really hoping that all of this addition is going to energize the clubhouse and create a wonderful environment for everybody that lives here. Let me see what other schedules we have not gone through. Okay, an estimate of the interest expense. We saw on the budget that the old clubhouse renovation expense and interest expense line, which is basically the number that used to be in your budget years ago to pay off the original loan. We didn't just pull the number out of a hat. We said you have a 3.5% interest rate, divide that by 12, comes out to this percent per month. And we looked at the loan balance projection of what we have borrowed and will have outstanding by the end of 2022 to figure out what the interest should be. So this interest comes out to 146,000 and change. This is really to show you what we think the loan balance is going to be, where it is now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This schedule another one that most people will be interested in. Counterclockwise should do it. There we go. Let's start at the top of this because it's a question people ask, but it never really gets answered. How the hell are we paying for the clubhouse? It says projected costs estimated as of the end of this year. Let's start at the top. There are only a few ways to pay for this clubhouse right now, right? One of them is the line of credit from BB&T, which is over here. And the other one is the reserves. And then the other one is the amount that's in the budget for renovation expense. If you add all these numbers up, it comes up to the cost of the project or what the estimated costs are as of today. The support for all of this, in case you don't know, or many of you do know, is actually on myvenetianiles.com as a pull down. We have on there the entire Hedrick Brothers contract. Hedrick Brothers is the general contractor. They hire all the other subs. So it's not the board or myself or anybody running out hiring all these people and making decisions on what they get paid. The original contract with Hedrick Brothers gives us a finished building at a fixed fee. And thank God, folks, we have that right now, because you know how these prices are. They would have been able to pass through tremendous cost increases to us, which they have not been able to do because we had a fixed fee arrangement with them. Everybody says, well, what about the change orders? Why does the price go up? Well, change orders happen when a county or some inspector comes in and says, oh, the code has changed, you need to upgrade these electric circuits. Well, guess what? We don't have a choice. If you want to get the building back open, I got to do it. If something happens, like we opened up the building and we had as-built plans, and when you go to rebuild the building, you find out that the plans were wrong, and there's something where it's not supposed to be and it's got to be moved, that's a change order. So right now, as we stand at this time, our contract for the clubhouse is for $6,344,291.21. Again, that's on the internet. You can look at all the details of that. Now we come to that number. The amount per the contract that is still due to be complete as of the end of November, which was the closest date I could do before this mailing, was $2,458,000. That means we've already paid them a little under $4 million for the work to be done in the clubhouse. This is what's remaining. We have change orders from December. These are the PCO numbers if you want to look them up on the internet. That came to $125,000. And then we put in here food service equipment at $470,000. That's an estimate. It's going to come in less than that, but we wanted to err on the side of caution because, again, we need to be able to finish it and open the place. So when we're planning, we're over budgeting, not under budgeting, because the last thing I want to do is build you a beautiful building and then say, oh, by the way, we don't have a plate to serve you a hamburger on, or, oh my God, we forgot light bulbs. So I'm exaggerating, but I'm doing that to illustrate the point. This does not mean the food service equipment is $470,000. Everything related to food service is dumped in that number to give us a cash flow to make sure we have the money to pay for everything and get the door open. All of that comes to this amount, $3,054,000. Simply dividing that over the rest of the year, you come out to $436,339 a month until the end of the project. And we stretched it all the way out to the end of June. I don't think it's going to be that long, but maybe it is. So what you do is you take these numbers, this group of numbers adds up to this number. You add it to what we've already paid. That gives you how Hedrick Brothers gets paid and how the food service gets open. At that point, we've used almost all of the line of credit. Let's move on from there because there are other things that have to be bought. Down here, we have things coming out of the reserves. Now you'd say, who decided what comes out of the reserves? Well, reserves are generally for the replacement of things that have outlived their useful life and need to be replaced. So when you look at what's here, Light fixtures, we used to have light fixtures, we're putting new ones in. We had furniture, we're putting in new furniture. Resurfacing the pool, we had a pool, it's being resurfaced. Hot tub, we had one, we're refinishing it or replacing it. The pavers around the pool deck, the billiard room furniture, the shade structures on the pool deck, the lighting and sound in the theater, and the pool deck sound system. All of these things are things that we owned in the past that either needed to be refurbished, replaced, or whatever, and these are the estimates of the costs. All of it comes out to $1,775,000. These things should appropriately be funded from reserves. The good news is you have reserves to pay for them, which is why we're not asking anybody for a check to pay for any of this at this point. The reserve balance currently is at $2,323,000. It'll be increased by $41,000 between November and December, which means at the end of the year, we have this amount. We all know that we're going to pave the roads, Venetian Isles Boulevard, the parking lot, etc. That money has to come out of the reserves. Again, conceptually, there was a road there before, you better put one back. $230,654 is what that's costing. And then during 2022, members will contribute $250,000 out of the budget, which you saw on page 1, like you've been doing for years, which gives us a total balance after the repavings paid for of $2,384,000. From that, we're going to pay out the $1,700,000, which means at the end of the year, you should still have reserves of $609,000. It means you don't have $2.5 million anymore, but you also have brand new carpet, brand new pool, et cetera, et cetera. We have plenty of time to replenish that reserve. This does not factor in any costs that come in that are different. For example, if the theater lighting and sound system comes in at $140,000 instead of $150,000 because we've over budgeted, we won't use the money. Conversely, if it comes in at $165,000, we're going to use more of the money because we have to get the place open. We're building you what you need to make the place run right. We're very conscientious about not overspending, but we're also not putting it together with spit and toilet paper because that will haunt us if we do. So all of these numbers were put together appropriately. The last part we didn't talk about is the restoration expense that's in the budget, this 282. That amount is for things that are not items that should be in the reserves and that are not included up top. For example, permit fees, impact fees, professional fees, things like that. That's going to cover those numbers. So we do have everything covered. We are going to get the clubhouse finished. There should be no special assessment for the clubhouse, which is what we've been saying all along. We just want to give you the comfort, and here's what it's costing. Hopefully that clarifies things. This is insurance we went through. This is contracts that we went through. I know this has been a really long Zoom meeting, but I just want to go back to this. I'm sorry, Zoom meeting, broadcast. I'm so used to doing Zoom meetings now. I'm going to rotate this view. Oh, wrong direction. Oh. There you go. All right, so we've gone through food and beverage. We've gone through your reserves. And again, we're to the end of this conversation. It's $339 per home per month. Hopefully we have made that clear as to why this happened. Basically, a third of it is because last year's budget was subsidized, which most people didn't notice, for $1,450. We had contractual increases for another $1,450. And you're now getting internet, which is costing about $15 a month. Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, and do join us for the budget meeting if you have further questions. Everybody be well and have a wonderful holiday.
Mm-hmm.